Hello, I am said Veronica. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a 34-year-old woman, who has had anxiety and depression confirmed since I was 17, but I remember having these issues as far back as 10 years old. I'm not going to get into the reasons for my disorders. That will probably be in a much later video when I feel more comfortable. But this video is entitled Traveling While Anxious. I have very bad anxiety to the point where I avoid circumstances that make me anxious normally, but unfortunately we cannot avoid all things and places and people that make us anxious. And I really wanted to see my best friend and her family, and she lives in a different state, which meant I had to travel. So thoughts that went through my head while preparing for the trip. I would get thrown off the flight because I'm too fat. Even though I was flying in first class, they would downgrade me for some reason, and then the person that I was sitting next to would complain because I'm fat. I would miss the flight. The flight would get canceled because of bad weather. And then of course always something terrible happens while we're in the air and we crash and die. So fun thoughts. Thoughts I had the day of the flight, all of those. But then, did I bring my identification? Did I buy the right ticket? Am I at the right terminal? Yes, it says priority on everything, but should I go to the priority lines because maybe it's not priority for me, even though everything says it's priority? And then getting fussed at by someone for not doing what I was supposed to be doing, which actually did happen. Yeah, so that was fun. And then I got there and I checked in using the little portal, the machines. And then I had checked baggage, and I go to the counter and she's like, "You weren't supposed to check in here. You were supposed to check in at the priority desk." And I was like, "Well, I wasn't sure." She's like, "Your ticket literally says priority." I was like, "Okay, ma'am." Yeah, and then one of my fears came true. The flight was delayed, fortunately only by an hour. There was a problem with the plane, so they had to get another plane. So yeah, that was that. And that was it. Once I got on the plane, I was pretty okay. But how did I get through those anxieties, you may ask? Probably you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So when the flight got canceled, I was on the phone with my sister, and so I stayed on the phone with my sister as we walked to the other end of the airport. And I was talking to her about everything but the flight. Like, we were catching up, talking about people that aggravate us. I was telling her about my food restrictions because I just had weight loss surgery. So just not concentrating on what was happening, that helped a lot. And then I put on music. I subscribed to a music subscription, and even though I have tens of thousands of songs, I tend to listen to probably the same 200 over and over again. So I have a When Anxious playlist, which I will one day share, but they are not songs about anxiety or anything like that. They're also not like happy-go-lucky songs as one would think. They're just nostalgic songs that have always made me feel good while listening to them. So that helped a great deal. It also helped with takeoff, because I'm not a fan of takeoff or landing. So I had my music on for takeoff, and then I took a short nap, and then I put the music back on for landing. What was another thing I did? Affirmations. So leading up to the trip, as the anxiety heightened, don't look at my nails. They're terrible. As the anxiety heightened, as the trip got closer, I had affirmations. Nothing crazy, nothing worth writing down, but just, you have traveled before. None of these things have happened. You have had some terrible travel experiences, i.e. being stuck in a Chinese airport for 27 hours, but you were fine. You survived it. So expect that something may happen, but hope that it, and so I just kind of would repeat that to myself a lot. And then of course prayer, which is very important for me. So yeah, so that's how I did it. That's how I got through it. And now I'm here with my best friend. I got to meet my youngest niece, who was born during the pandemic, and see my first niece. I was there for the 3rd week of her life. Like, it was very important for me to be there like as soon as she was born. So they're my babies, and I love them, and we've had a lot of fun. And of course my best friend and her husband love them too. So I don't push myself a lot. I probably should push myself more. But when it's a huge situation that has to be addressed, I expect the anxiety, I accept the anxiety, and I find solutions to the anxiety. It doesn't go away. Like I said, the anxiety lasted up onto the flight itself. So I have stopped trying to figure out how to be less anxious as I get older, and more so focus on how to cope with it. And that has taken a lot of my stress regarding my anxiety away. So anyway, that wasn't very dark. Sometimes it'll be darker. But yeah, that's me, and that is my travel tips for traveling with anxiety.